everybody, Mo here, and today I'm bringing you guys part 2 of the budget decks for Riftbound, so Riftbound budget decks. The first video, people really liked it. It came out before the game came out. Some of them were still pretty close to being budget decks. However, how was I supposed to know that a rare would be, you know, $35 in Watcher, and Watcher kind of ruined the entire video. But outside of Watcher, low-key, that video is like pretty accurate. Still, you just have to find replacements for Watcher. But if you can find replacements for Watcher, then your deck is like pretty good. Like the deck's still pretty budget, right? So that's what we did today. Is we went and did more legends that weren't seen in the first video, and then went back to the other video, or some of the legends were from the first video, and just kind of like re-budgeted them so it was cheaper. Piltover Archive has this really cool. Sorry, people don't like when I highlight the screen. I just have it. Piltover Archive added this deck pricing here. It's in euros, so I think it's a little bit more than this for NA, but all of these decks are at either $55 or less. They're around like $55 or less. Of course, not Annie, but that's with like a big asterisk, right? So let's go over them. So the first deck here is going to be Volibear. So red, orange, big boy. We like big boys. We like big might. And you cannot lie, he is a really powerful guy. Most of the time you see these in Aurora builds, but I went to go ahead and build him in the like mid-rangey dragon version. I played a lot of mid-range Volibear before Aurora was out. I played some mid-range Volibear even post-Aurora. And honestly, it's very close. Like, you have a lot of really good red cards. You have like Void Seekers, for example. You have challenges. You're an orange, so if you ever play against Kaisa, you can play Sabotage, or you can play Unyielding Spirit to make your units not die. You have a lot of early game pressure with nice units like Kraken Hunter. This is like the only deck that can really play Kraken Hunter because you effectively negate one of the power costs. So you can play it on turn 1. You start on, let's say turn 1 you go second. You start with 3 runes. You play it. You go down to 1 rune. And then you Volibear, you know, legend ability, go back up to 2 runes, go to 4, immediately get to play like, you know, Buccaneer, Herald of Scales, like, or just have 4 runes and be able to pass, be able to ramp up anyways from the next turn. Like, maybe you pass that turn, you have some, you know, fight spell, any type of burn spell, and then you can just immediately play a 5-drop on the next turn and you're big chillin'. You scale really well. This plays some Cadrigans, some Mountain Drakes. Mountain Drake is a very big card, no power cost, makes it really nice when you're trying to scale up, and it makes it really solid with a Volibear. It just makes it an actual ramp. All of these no power cost 5 might units let you actually ramp, and then you have all of your really expensive, really nice tools like removal spells. You have your Sky Splitters, your Void Seekers, your challenges. You can play Get Excited, all of that stuff. The links to all of these are in the description below, by the way, under my Piltover Archive public decks. So this is the budget Volibear deck. I really like it. This is probably my favorite budget. Here's my second favorite budget deck. Yasuo is my favorite budget deck, but this one's really solid. I even included a sideboard here, so if you want to take it to your Nexus Knights and you play best of 3 sideboards, you should be able to pick up a lot of these cards for effectively free. All of the commons and uncommons you should be able to just get from your friends, from your locals for free, and then all that's left is trying to pick up some rares, and these rares don't cost anything. Trinimir is like a 15-cent rare, Snapvine's like a 50-cent rare, Cadrigan's like $5 or $6, I think. Same with like Primal's like $5 or $6. Volley is like $3. Like, this card doesn't cost anything. So all of these rares, I think like Sabotage might be like $5. So yeah, basically all you would have to do is ever spend money on are going to be like the epics and rares, but these are playing epics and rares that aren't very played right now. They're not really meta, so they're going to be fairly cheap, and that's going to be nice when it comes to finding a budget deck. Now, to my favorite budget deck is in fact Yasuo. So Yasuo is really sick. One, he's a nice budget deck because a lot of his cards come from the starter deck. So it's actually a really nice deck if you want to just simply upgrade, or sorry, not the starter deck, but the trial decks. If any of you guys played those trial decks, or maybe your store has some trial decks you can play with. If you just want to take those deck lists, or if they give you, you know, those decks and you just want to add some cards to it to upgrade it to play locally, you know, the trial decks that all have, say, sample on them aren't tournament legal or anything, but at your locals, you know, people probably don't really care. So this is a really nice upgrade from there, but I like it. It's a nice aggressive Yasuo deck. It plays Mask of Foresight. It plays a bunch of 2-drops. It plays 3, 6, 7, 8 2-drops. There's also like Purple Teemo can be played here. Same with Ty Turner can be played if you end up having those, if you have a Teemo style of build. And the good part about this deck is, one, it's a nice aggro deck, so you will be able to just pressure a lot of your opponents. It has a lot of tricks that a lot of players don't really know how to play around, so you actually get a lot of mileage. I'm not capping. This is really close to one of the first like Yasuo decks I brought to a local, and I went undefeated that night. With the Yasuo deck almost identical to this. The only difference was instead of Mind Splitters, I was playing the White Flame Protectors, but for a budget video, you know, I'm not going to include a White Flame Protector that just shot up because of Spirit Reforged spoilers, right? Or reveal season. But outside of that change, this is like extremely close to the deck that I was playing, including the sideboard of like Adaptatron Gus. Of course, this has possessions in it. I don't know how much possessions cost right now, but if it's too much, you can always just put in Fading Memories. Fading Memories is fairly similar for those of you that don't know. I have the cards right in front of me. It is it's 4 energy, 1 power. You can kill a gear, so you can kill an Aurora, or you give a unit on a battlefield temporary, meaning that it effectively is 4 energy, 1 power, kill a unit that's on a battlefield. But the cool part is that if they have Azonia's Hourglass, because temporary doesn't go away, or if you're against a set, it'll try to kill that unit at the start of the turn. Hourglass will stop it from dying, but that unit keeps temporary. So then on the next turn, it will just die again anyway. So now you've effectively killed an Hourglass and the unit with a with 1 card with that. Fading Memories. But I like Possession because it can steal your opponent's really expensive, really cool cards. It's like, hey, nice $100, Dead Bloom Predator. Mind if I borrow that for the rest of this game? It's a lot of fun. But again, if these are, you don't want to spend money on possessions, that's fine. You can always just go with the classic Fading Memories. But yeah, this aggro deck's nice. Another really big thing about this aggro deck, or this Yasuo deck specifically, it plays a lot of just really good staple cards. So a lot of these cards are cards you're going to want or need for a lot of your staple decks. It's really only just a couple of expensive kind of top-end cards away from having like a fully optimized Yasuo deck. But also, you will use these cards in just about any like orange or purple deck, like a lot of meta decks. Obviously, Defy, you play in like every green deck. Stack that goes in every purple deck. Unguard goes in about every green deck. Mask of Foresight will go in a lot of green decks. Merchant, every purple deck. Every purple aggro deck. Same with Poro, like green Poro. Every kind of like tempo-y green deck. Ride the Wind, any aggressive purple deck. Green deck. All of these cards are cards that you will use in any competitive type of purple or green deck. So it's a really nice way to set you up to kind of have the shell for any future deck that you want to be building. And that's something that I really prioritize when I build budget lists, is I try and get people to, if you are going to be spending any amount of money at all on cards here and it's in a budget deck, I always try and make it cards that will kind of go with future decks, or that you can kind of build around or put it as your like core, and then it goes into other decks. Like Mind Splitter, I don't know if this card costs anything. If it costs like $2 or $3, cool, but at least you're spending $2 or $3 on a card that you'll play in Teemo, a card that you'll play in Misfortune, a card that you can play in Yasuo just normally. This card gets played in a whole bunch of stuff. Same with possessions. If you end up spending like $5 on a possession, or again, I don't know how much they cost. I'm just going off of the good old, price thingy up here. And I've had my possessions for a while, so I haven't had to look. But, if you have to spend $5 on a possession, that's fine. Because, again, you can put these in any, like, purple deck that is going to play kind of mid-rangey. And anytime you're in a meta, like we're in now, really, where your opponents are Master Yi and they're just slamming 10 might units down, you can just say, gimme that. If set ever gets really good, it's action speed. They come in with a 20 might set, you say, gimme that, and you just steal it, right? So possession's really solid there. Anything else that costs money, I think maybe Zonia's is a few dollars. Cool. Now you have Zonia's for your Yi decks or your Ahri deck or any green deck ever in the future. You have to spend a couple bucks on Mask. Cool. You have Mask for your Ahri deck and any green deck in the future, right? Super nice. Same with like Stack deck. I think it's a couple bucks for some reason, even though it's an uncommon. You'll have it for every single purple deck ever in the future. So this is my Yasuo deck. I like it. I like the aggressive nature to it. Some additions you can put in are going to be purple Teemo. Again, if you have White Flames, you can play White Flame over Mind Splitter. That's a lot of what I like. Oops, sorry. Next one is Budget Ahri. So I redid this one because my original Budget Ahri list had Watcher in it, and Watcher is not a budget card. Watcher is fairly expensive. So I went ahead and took out Watchers, and I made this kind of like a more tempo-y hold type of game plan. So it's more like an Ahri tempo style deck where you're going to play out your units. This version doesn't have masks in them, but you can play a version with like masks and sprite mothers if you have mask and sprite mothers. And And that allows you to get a little bit more aggressive and have more accelerate units, like with the tasties. Of course, if you get watchers, you can start throwing in watchers. And then if you happen to have 1 or 2 time warps, you can put time warps in it, right? But, you know, with these budget lists, I'm going to assume that you're coming in with either nothing or close to nothing, and you're just trying to get into the game for as little as possible. Maybe you get, you know, all your commons and uncommons for free from your friends and your LGS. Okay, if I just want to spend, you know, 20, 30 bucks on rares, like, how do I make my deck better? And that's how I approach these starter decks, or not starter decks, these budget decks. So this is a hold tempo style game plan. So you're playing these nice cheap units with Poro, Student, and then you just keep going up the row, right? Like Tank and Shield, boom, Sunlit Guardian is amazing in Ahri. This card is effectively a 3 mana 5, because it's a 3 mana 4 when they attack into you, and then because of Ahri Legend ability, it will fight off any 5s. So this card is a 3 energy, no power, trades off with a 5. You have Sona to keep all of your combat tricks open. I kept a lot of combat tricks in this deck because combat tricks tend to be, you know, very cheap. They're all in like common or uncommon here, so I wanted that to happen. So I put in the Sona, you know, I don't know, I think she's a couple dollars maybe. I gave you a Falling Comet. This is a way to have removal to really use with the Sona energy. Like, okay, you're untapping all this energy, let's do something with it. Either it's meditation to draw some cards, all these pump spells or combat tricks, or it's going to be just a straight up kill spell with Falling Comet, with Falling Comet. And then your top end is going to be Tasty and Mundo. And again, these are rares that are, I think, like $4 or $5 each. You know, so this right here is like 15, this is like $25. This is like a huge majority of the cost right here, if not just basically the cost of the deck is these cards. But again, these are cards that you're going to be playing in just about, in a whole lot of green decks and in any type of blue deck where you're needing some sort of top end, whether it's Kai'Sa and you want Mirror Tech, if it's Teemo and you want Kai'Sa Tech, any type of deck where you want this unkillable late game, you know, Demon King in Mundo, even if you're first timing him at Worlds, this is, you know, the card that you're going to want, and that's why I put it in this budget deck. And then I gave you a sideboard, so you can play at your best of 3, your Nexus Knight, get a lot of value out of it, had a lot of fun with your friends. 1 Blitzcrank, so if you're against any type of other tempo type deck or they have cards in the back, you can just sit there and just replay Blitzcrank and tear their board apart. Adaptatron to help you in the Aurora matchups, Wind Walls to help you in the Viktor matchups or Grand Stratagem matchups, Rune Prison to help you in the Yi matchups or big unit matchups. And all in all, this list is, you know, pretty solid. You have some mutations to make your unit as big as a Mundo, to pump a unit. Maybe you use like a Discipline on something, make it big. Now you just want to Convergent up your other unit to that big. You know, that makes you very happy. You can also have smoke screens. Again, we have all of these combat tricks to use with that Sona energy that Sona's untapping for you. And then we have green Ahri, because sometimes you can just win. Obviously, we would like blue Ahri, but I think blue Ahri costs a little bit of money, and green Ahri costs like 15 cents. So we put in green Ahri. That's what you can do for upgrading cards. Obviously, you can put in Watchers when you get them, Time Warps when you get them, blue Ahri when you get them. And then that's going to be how you make this deck better. Once you put in Watchers, the Time Warps, you have the Sprite Mothers, then you can start playing like Sprite Mother mask package with the top end above a bunch of Accelerate units, and then of course you have your Time Warp to pressure even more. All of that is how you would upgrade this deck here. And then Viktor, so this is our last true budget deck. Last one, of course, is Annie, but she has an asterisk next to her. And again, Viktor was one that I already did, but I wanted to redo now that, you know, we know how much the Watchers cost, the Foxes sign in, 1,000 Watch, whatever you want to call it. We know how much they cost, so I went back to something very similar. So same Viktor style deck. You know, we put in yellow Viktor. This is an epic, but I think about yellow Viktor costs like $9 or something. Again, this is the cheapest deck by all of them, mostly because a lot of these cards is going to be pretty close to the Viktor starter deck and then just a few upgrades. And that's something that I really tried to prioritize on this Viktor deck, is to get you, you know, just say, hey, I'm going to buy the Viktor starter deck, and then I'm going to get some uncommons and commons for free from my friends, my LGS, however you get them. And then outside of that, you basically just have to buy a couple of rares. You know, you get 1 Grand Stratagem in the starter deck, cool. Just go out and get 1 more. That's all you have to do for that. Machine Evangel, I don't think you get any in the starter deck, but you just go grab a couple of those. That is literally all of the rares you need in this main deck. Is 1 additional stratagem, and then some Machine Evangels, which I think are just like a couple of dollars each. And then boom, there you go. Everything else in here is just a common or an uncommon that you either get for free in your starter deck, or they're common or uncommon, so your mates and store should just have a box of them and give them to you for free, or you can probably ask around and people will have some for you. And then the sideboard plays Harness Dragon, Shin, some salvages. So again, anti-Aurora tech, plus really any type of big unit. So like Ramp Yi, any type of big unit deck, you just play Harness Dragon. And then Shin is a really nice anti-mid-range deck. I like it into Kaisa even, because whenever they play out a Darius and attack into you, or accelerate a Watcher into you, you can just flash in a Shin and make it a really, really solid blocker, make it harder for them to attack you. It is 3 energy for 5 might out of nowhere, kind of like a combat trick if you want to look at it that way. And a lot of decks aren't going to math for that, and it's going to be very easy to get a lot of value for, you know, your $1 rare. And then the last deck we'll look at is Budget Annie. This has an asterisk on it, of course. You know, you see up here, deck price like $100. You got a TCG player to buy the deck, and you say, "What the fuck? Mo lied to me," or "What the frick? Mo lied to me." Annie, the legend itself, is like $30, and then this common is like $40, and you know all this, you know, all that. And that's honestly the entire price, by the way. So if you look at like $96, like $100. In all honesty, flashes are like $40 right now, and the Annie Legend I think is like $25-$30 or something. So that is already, you know, 80, 30. That's $100 in those 3 cards. But this is a budget deck if you already own a Proving Grounds box. If you already have a Proving Grounds box and you just want to, you know, you want to, and it's open, or you want to open it, you want to play Annie. Annie is very solid. This is an extremely budget-friendly deck. Just overall, like Annie in general is an extremely budget-friendly deck. Of course, the only things that ever cost money in the actual like true competitive Annie deck are going to be your 3rd copy of Flash and then your 3 Kaisas. Of course, Kaisa is an extremely expensive card right now. But if you just don't play the 3 Kaisas and you have a Proving Grounds box, you're just out 1 Flash. But then everything else is extremely budget. Everything else is a common or uncommon. The only thing is like Darius is like $10, I think. Draven I don't think costs very much. I think it's just like $1 or $2. And then everything else is a common or uncommon that again you can get for free. These are all cards that you will transition with other decks as well. You know, you have the stack deck, every purple deck. Merchant again. Ride the Wind again. If you have the flashes, you can even add the flashes to the Yasuo deck if you want to do that. The Fighter Flights, every purple deck. You have your Void Seeker. We saw those in Volibear, right? Noxus Hopeful. Cool. These are going to go in your Kaisa deck, your Darius Hook deck, your Annie deck, Jinx deck, like any type of red aggressive style or red tempo heavy deck. Noxus Hopeful will be good. So this is the deck. I even gave you a sideboard again. So acceptable losses to beat the Aurora gamers, Hexray to beat any type of aggro mirror matches, Rebuke to beat the Aurora gamers and the like Ramp Yi gamers. You have your Veins to be able to be better into Kaisa. And the deck overall is still, you know, pretty fine. It's still pretty fine. It's still pretty close to a competitive version of the deck. Basically, you can build the competitive Annie deck and then just take out like 1 Flash, 3 Kaisas, and that's pretty decent. You can even put Veins in the main deck as like pseudo Kaisas. Of course, Kaisas draw you cards and that's nice, but if you want to, like, you can take out the Shakedowns, put in the 2 Veins, and that's like pretty good, right? Or you can take out the Dravens and put in the Veins if you don't like Draven or don't have Draven. And Vayne does a very similar job to Kaisa, where she'll get you points in the mid game by getting over top of opponents' units that are at 4 might. And then, you know, you can return her to your hand to keep her safe if you want to do that. Big thing, of course, she doesn't draw a card, but she doesn't cost a card either. So it's barely, you know, kind of close to what like a Kaisa does. So you can do that instead of the Draven or instead of the Shakedown. And of course, really just having the missing the 3rd flash is the only like big thing that you're missing that you're not paying for. But outside of those things, again, this is, you know, this isn't like a trick like, oh, I tricked you, my budget deck of, you know, $150. It's more like, if you already have the Proving Grounds box, you already have it open, you already have the Annie, you know, all that stuff, or you have a friend that has Proving Grounds stuff and they don't mind selling you, you know, a common at a reasonable price and then a legend at a reasonable price. You know, this is something very easily that you could build. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoy these budget decks. Let me know what legend you want me to see, or you want me to see, you want to see me make a budget video for in the future, or if you want me to show like in depth, like how to upgrade decks or anything like that. You know, let me know that type of stuff too. What type of content you guys just want to see in general. I appreciate it. That's gonna be it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.